Just another day, man.
Oh, good.
But I do get aggravated.
It's on the inside of
Good for her.
Yeah.
Justice income?
No, so you can't make.
They had that lady off, they cut back the hours.
I guess that is getting rid of some computer skills.
In my understanding.
1-0-7-9.
I'm sorry. Oh, yeah. Cost for,
Yeah. His mindset is like,
Hey, Bob.
I mean, I don't know why, but.
Mike. Oh, hi, Mike. Wonder who said that. Sneaking up in front of you.
I'm sorry?
I'm sneaking up in front of you.
And then.
That's where I was at.
One of us.
Yes, sir. Yep. I've already read it. I've read it. I've got to read it. I've reviewed it. It makes perfect sense.
I mean, that's how it always is. It's like. Shop cars. It's cheaper. Basis.
Are we done with the ERG? I mean, we were gonna be done.
I think it's
There were like 4 families left that you were still.
We have some stations.
One, but because now everything's stopped,
Everything stopped.
they just needed some columns and pulls.
Sheet, I got sheet. They're good.
You know, I had a reporter call.
Yeah, I mean, I worked
On the anniversary,
What do you do with it?
and I avoided them. I
So
said,
they didn't sell them for, when people buy it.
I wanted to be able to say we were done.
Yeah, I too, but
I just.
I didn't want to get it. Since she didn't call me, I didn't get one.
Yeah.
Are you here for entertaining tonight, or are you gonna entertain us?
Oh, it's one of the most.
I have one page, so I can
On what?
I have one page or 2 more.
I'm
I'm sure you'll like it.
Okay, good.
Pretty much.
I think it's trying to wait, minimize it.
My wife worked with the Lord for Bangladesh.
Yeah.
She
I
could
would
work
have
there.
to go
And we had some.
back.
It was interesting, but I mean, all the time, she said, I was worried the names and stuff. It's just kind of the consistency. Is kind of- Well, she said that's probably. But I would anyway. But yeah, the men like. Shredded, they barbecue out of it.
Are we broadcasting?
And,
You that.
All ready?
Good evening, board members, staff, members of the audience. Let the record show that today is April 21st. The time is 7 p.m. and we will now call the Amherst County Board of Supervisors meeting to order. Board members, we will again be going live stream on the internet. And so folks who are at home or out in the public who did not want to come to the meeting tonight will have an opportunity to comment during public comment. And there is a process for that I'm not quite clear on, but others here who need to make it work are clear. As I understand it, you can sign on online and then staff will, staff will call you and you will be able to do public comment just as if you were sitting here. So that's pretty cool. And you can also, people can also see us as we are debating and talking and just as if they were here with us. So that's how we're getting started today. I'm going to amend the agenda right off and we're going to add a section 9B as in boy, and that will be to address the county fair. And we will have a representative from the fair committee here to talk to us about their latest meeting and their thoughts. So with all of that, is there a move to approve the agenda? Motion on the floor by Mr. Ayers. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The agenda is now approved, and we will have an invocation and pledge of allegiance. Dear Father, there is so much to be thankful for and so much to pray about. Please, please protect and watch over our public safety folks, our first responders, our friends, our family, and all of our citizens who are working in the hospital, all those who are involved in healthcare. Dear Lord, please watch over our teachers. Give them the guidance and the patience that they need to teach our children, our next generation, in an environment that is not familiar to anyone. Dear Lord, we ask that you look over those seniors who should have been looking at a graduation ceremony and now are looking at uncertainty. But regardless, they have had a good full educational career with 12 to 13 years behind them, and they look to move forward and go to college, start their careers, learn a trade, and do what is pleasing to you, dear Lord. Our younger students, give them patience, give their parents patience. We've got a lot of parents who are teaching their children. We've got folks here on the board who are doing double duty, as many of us are. They're working, they're doing extracurriculars, and they're also acting as teachers for their children. And dear Lord, bless them. We're in uncharted waters, dear Lord. Please give us wisdom, give us patience with each other. And dear Lord, please let this board do tonight what is pleasing to you. Give us wisdom, give us courage, and let us do what is pleasing to you in your eyes. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. We will now move on to citizen comment, and I have signed up Mr. Alan Wood. Mr. Wood, would you come forward and give us your name and your address, please?
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board. My name is Alan Wood. I reside at 297 Burke Drive, Madison Heights. As you're aware, the pandemic our county, Commonwealth, and country now face has taken a toll. Many have died and many more have been sickened. While these numbers are fortunately not as great in our county as other places, the financial toll from the shutdown of businesses and many activities has affected Amherst citizens as much or more as those of other localities. This is particularly true given that so many of our neighbors already struggle with their normal living expenses even before this latest crisis. In a recognition of the expected negative impact on tax revenues, the governor has announced broad reductions for planned spending by state government. Similarly, neighboring localities have recognized that many of their citizens are under financial duress and have taken steps so as not to add to their hardship. To date, Amherst County has pushed back the date in which it will make a decision on the budget for the next fiscal year, but has done little else. I urge you to take decisive action now to help the citizens of Amherst as they endure this crisis and as they struggle through the months ahead to recover. To that end, I offer the following suggestions. 1, immediately freeze hiring for county government. 2, adjust the budget for fiscal year 2021 to eliminate all proposed new county government positions. 3, immediately freeze compensation at current levels for all county employees. 4, adjust the budget for fiscal year 2021 to eliminate all planned compensation increases for county employees. 5, direct staff to halt any capital spending not already committed, even if it has been budgeted, until further action by the board. 6, eliminate all new capital spending in the fiscal year 2021 budget in order to conserve funds for those projects already underway that cannot be halted. Clearly, we're not going to return to where we were 2 months ago in the next few months. Given the gravity of the situation for the people of Amherst, where they find themselves in, I urge you to take these actions tonight. When conditions improve, there will be an opportunity to revisit spending initiatives proposed by staff. Until that time, the people of Amherst need county government to help lighten their burdens, not to increase their burdens. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Wood. All right, that's all that signed up. Is there anyone else in the audience wishing to speak? Seeing and hearing none, we will now close citizen comments and move on to the public hearing. Mr. Lockerbie, I believe that you're going to speak about the emergency ordinance.
Yes, ma'am.
It's gonna keep it close.
Yeah. I'm doing this for Regina's benefit so that she can, I'm pretty good at shouting, but she won't be able to hear it. This is an ordinance to put in place certain emergency procedures in response to the pandemic that Mr. Wood was just talking about and that Ms. Tucker spoke about during the invocation. Pursuant to Virginia Code Section 15.2, 14, 13, this Board of Supervisors is empowered to take certain measures in order to provide for response and stability of government while also providing for response and care to the citizens to the extent that we can. The first thing that this does is it authorizes the board, the school board, the planning commission, board of zoning appeals, board of equalization, economic development authority, board of directors, and the service authority board of directors, and other regional authorities, boards, and commissions to hold electronic meetings for the purposes of addressing the pandemic. It also authorizes them to extend legally mandated timelines whenever that is going to be in any way permissible. And this is going to particularly come into play with regard to approval of site plans, holding public hearings, and things like that for special exception permits. Extend all of those timelines and give discretion to the chairs of these bodies to schedule meetings and public hearings at times that are the safest. It's not unreasonable to expect that there will be, over the next however many months, times when, as we slowly reopen the world, so to speak, that there will be times when it is a better or worse time in order to hold a public hearing or a public meeting, and allow chairs the autonomy and discretion to schedule meetings at the times that are most convenient based upon BDH guidance. However, with respect to timelines, officers and employees are encouraged to take such action as is practical and appropriate to meet those deadlines. We do expect that the 60 to 90-day deadlines, for instance, for site plans, will probably continue to be met. However, under the circumstances, having some discretion to change that guarantee makes some sense. It also extends timelines for certain taxes and waives penalties going forward. You can't waive penalties or forgive penalties and interest on taxes going backward in time, but you can set your penalty and interest rates to 0 at present. And these would apply going forward. So typically, we would have a June 5th deadline for the first real estate tax payment this year. This ordinance would extend that to August 5th. So that would be a 2-month extension on the real estate tax. The May 1st deadline for B-Pole, Merchants Capital, Machinery and Tools, and Personal Property are extended from May 1st to June 30th. So again, a 2-month extension. Deadlines for returns and remittances of transient occupancy tax, the lodging tax, are extended to June 30th, and anything that's currently delinquent, all penalties and interest are set to 0 until June 30th on anything that people haven't paid yet. And the same goes for the food and beverage tax. And the treasurer is authorized to extend other deadlines related to these same taxes that are merely administrative through her office in order to make the administration of those taxes orderly. Those are the dominant issues in this ordinance. I did want to note that it's expected that tomorrow at the veto session, the General Assembly is going to adopt a budget amendment, which will authorize us to hold, more or less to hold electronic meetings for the duration of the pandemic, provided that we meet some pretty stringent electronic participation guidelines, but nothing that Ms. Niehaus and Ms. Byer aren't perfectly capable of making sure that we meet. So to those particular provisions of this ordinance will actually become more or less irrelevant tomorrow, but those tax provisions will continue in effect for this calendar year. Do you have any questions?
Board members?
Madam Chair, so in relation to items C and D, the remittance of transient occupancy tax and the food and beverage tax,
Yes.
so when are they normally collected?
Those are normally collected on I believe that they're collected on a monthly basis. They would, for the April ones would not be paid, the May would not be paid, and then the June would be paid at the end of June 30th. So it would basically be that those 3 months would be extended up to June 30th.
So just help me understand, Mr. Rogers. So if I go to a restaurant to get takeout, I pay a meals tax,
That's right.
right? And that meals tax is essentially collected on behalf of the county.
That's
That's
correct.
a tax that the consumer is paying, correct? That goes to the county. I'm not sure why we were delaying collecting those two taxes. It's not like a personal property tax or machinery. So why are you recommending that we do that?
You're correct, Mr. Martin. Those monies are held in trust for the county. The reason that this is before you is that the Commissioner of the Revenue has proposed it. It's a means to alleviate pressure on those businesses. Some localities are doing it and some are not. And therefore, she does not have the authority to offer that relief. Only you do. And so this is her proposal to you with regard to those taxes. So you are free to mix and match or change any of these deadlines as you see fit, or not adopt them at all, and we can adjust.
For the record, Mr. Rogers, I didn't think that particular action was a recommendation of yours. I thought that was just a request by the Commissioner of Revenue. Is that accurate?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And that's why I put it in underlines as something that was not something that staff had put forward. It was something that the commissioner had requested so that you could easily see where it fell.
And in fact, it's also underlined because it's different than what you were presented at the first read. So that has come in since the first read. And I can't say how insistent she is about this. I think she feels the pressure of other localities doing it for their citizens, so she ought to do it as an elected official for hers. And she understands the reasons why perhaps it's not necessarily a good idea too. I think she's just placed the monkey on your backs.
Madam Chair, if I may. I understand, they are collecting the tax and it comes to the county and so forth, but at the same time, most likely, they're not receiving as many people buying the food, so they're not collecting as much. All of the wait staff now is pretty much non-existent. So they are in a situation that's very tough for their business as well as their people. So I feel for them as well. I don't think it's a bad idea. I don't know what that would do, how much money that would be on a given 2-month basis, how much we normally accrue. It would be nice to have someone here to explain it a little more to us.
Mr. Lockley, because my concern, and I understand where the Christian Revolution is coming from, I do, and I do support her, but I'm afraid that we could create a problem for our small businesses. They're taking this money in an ideal situation, they set it aside, and then at the end of the month or whatever, then they send it to the county. Putting that money in lock is could be tempting. I mean,
I think what it boils down to me, and I understand everybody's hurting, but essentially what you'd be doing is, to me, is no different than a loan for 3 months, right? Because that is a tax that comes directly into the county. That's technically not the business owner's funds, that's the county.
That's correct. At the end of those 3 months, that total amount is then due. So whether they've spent it on something else already or not, it's still due.
But also, you've got a 0% interest on it, right? So what happens at June 30th if it's not paid?
Well, then it becomes delinquent tax, and then the process is for tax.
So I think we're creating more issues than what we solve. So I wholeheartedly support everything else, and I want to support that, but I cannot support section C and D. So if you want to vote on it, I request you vote on those sections.
We can give you an assessment, Mr. Pugh, about the amount we're talking
I
about.
think I misunderstood what everyone was saying. I thought Mr. Lockerbie, and excuse me, but what you're saying is that money is they're still going to have to pay that money at the end of the 3 months.
Yes, sir.
There's
not
no
forgiveness.
Okay, I thought we were forgiving it for 2 months. I'd be all in favor of that, but we're not doing that. It's to do it at the end of 3 months.
No.
Is that correct?
correct.
All of it's due no, then what?
The June one is not due until July. So you're talking about the March, April, and May payments. March is probably not seeing as big a hit as what April and May will see. I haven't seen any of it because they're waiting for your decision. I looked in the general ledger a couple days ago, and there's not a single dime has been paid for March. So probably around $75,000 for March. We normally get anywhere from 90 to 100 a month. And then I have estimated 60,000 for April and May and June, each month. I took 40% off. And if you don't have that money, I can tell you, you probably will need to dip into your general fund balance for the year. I've estimated out the rest of this year based on the changes, and we are tightly breaking even is where I'm at. So I check it every month. So as soon as April's over, I'll check it again. But that's where I'm estimating us to be.
So that, yeah, it makes more sense now. I mean, I kind of agree with Mr. Martin too. I mean, they're still got to do the accounting. You know, the accountant, whoever's doing payroll, is probably doing all of this, right? They're probably, yeah, and most situations. So they got to pay it sooner or later anyway. They're already collecting it. So I tend to agree with Mr. Martin.
And the reason we set it for June 30th is because that's the end of it's still in this fiscal year. So, you know, at the end of the fiscal year, if we do come up short by some amount, at least we're not extending it on into the next fiscal year. We've already sent you projections for the next fiscal year. We can deal with that separately.
there any further discussion on that particular matter? That would be item D.
C and D.
I mean, yeah,
I think the transient occupancy is pretty much a moot point anyway. To me, it's still the same issue.
so you want to include C?
But I do not want to include C and D.
As far as not paying it, you do not, you want C and D. D stays outside, because we don't want to forgive D.
Or C.
Or C, okay, that's what I'm asking, all right,
And it wouldn't be forgiveness anyway. It would
Right.
just be-
Right.
delayed,
Yes.
okay. All right, board members, we need a motion.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve the ordinance with the exception of paragraph C and D on page 5.
All right, there's a motion on the floor by Mr. Martin. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. Thank you. All right, the COVID-19 block grant. Ms. Hanson.
If I may, Madam Chair, can we at least open up for a public hearing first before we approve the ordinance?
Excuse me.
Joy, is there anyone that?
Absolutely.
is there
We
anyone
have
that's
had no
requested to speak?
emails, no comments, no calls.
All right, we're now going to open up the meeting for public hearing for items A and B. Is there anyone here wishing to speak to item A? Seeing and hearing none, we'll close that public hearing. And we will now open up a public hearing for item B. Thank you, Ms. Hanson.
Good evening. The Virginia Department of Housing and Community Development is making available current community development block grant funding to small cities, towns, and rural counties to respond to local needs related to the COVID-19 response. Amherst County is submitting an application under the COVID-19 urgent need category that addresses an issue created by COVID-19. A local Amherst County business, Swissomation, Virginia, and we have a representative from Swissomation, Susan Schoening, who's with us, has recently accepted 2 large contracts, one with Ventic Life Systems and one with General Motors, to produce components for ventilators in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. Swissomation is requesting CDBG funding to help with the sudden capital expenditures as they expand their business operations to meet this crucial need for the nation. Swissomation specializes in micro-machining small parts, usually smaller than the size of a dime, with extreme accuracy. Swissomation has partnered with Ventic Life Systems over the past 5 years as they have brought their multifunction ventilators from prototype to production. In the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic, Ventic has faced a rapid acceleration in the production of ventilators and has named Swissomation as the preferred supplier for 20 integral components. In addition, General Motors has contracted Swissomation to produce large quantities of 8 different ventilator components with a ramped up production schedule. Swissomation is faced with a huge increase in capacity needs to fulfill the accelerated production schedule. Swissomation will need to buy and install specialized machinery to manufacture these parts, including 4 lathe machines and a centrifugal finishing machine. The total CDBG request is approximately $400,000. Are there any questions about
Any
this?
questions, board members?
Madam Chair, so will this all be done with current employees or their new employees? How does that work?
There may be several new employees as they bring on the machines. We've talked about potentially three part-time to potentially full-time as they get the machines in and get them ramping back up into production.
I think it's very impressive that we have this type of company in the county, so thank you. How quick will there be an answer on the grant?
So we are the trailblazers, as the HCD has said. We are the first ones to come in under this grant. They are trying very hard to accommodate the need to move at great speed, especially in regards to the ventilator parts. They understand the urgency here. However, it is money from HUD that comes in, and so they have already compressed some of the normal timelines for us for our public hearings. We, they always hate to say anything out loud and definitely in public, but we're hoping to have an answer within a week. We've been working with them very closely over the last week and a half since I knew when I saw the funding announcement come out that we had Swiss Summation. They'd let us know what they were doing for ventilator parts. We've been in talks already. So that made it easy to go straight to them immediately with a letter of interest and start the conversation. So just like with everything else that's kind of new, this is also pretty new, but we've been able to work really well as a team, I think, to get this package to them, do the public hearings, and we'll agree to the electronic public hearing on Friday to help move this through. So this will be significant for our local business, but also for what they're doing in the parks that they're doing it. They really are a wonderful family business that's been in the area for a long time, and it's been slowly expanding, but now they need to jump forward at a much higher rate of speed. And that is what the grant will allow them to do, is to really get these machines that they need and get them into production and start making the parts right away.
So what would happen if they do not receive the grant? They've already signed contracts.
So they have the contracts, they're going to have to try to meet that production need without the grant, which would be much more difficult for them. It's a capital expenditure, and that, approximately $400,000 would really change cash flow for them and, their financial aspects. That's exactly what this granting fund is for. And just so you know, the grant comes to Amherst County. We are the applicant. It's on behalf of Swiss Summation. And so that's why you all are signing all the papers and the rest of it. But it's for this very specific project. It does not come out of county funds. It doesn't come out of what is normally the CDBG kind of Amherst County allotment. This is a completely separate fund set up just for these urgent needs for COVID-19.
I have a question, Madam Chair. It seems like an odd pairing when you look at the community development block grant, and then you're going into making parts and stuff for ventilators. It seems an odd pairing. How did this get initiated, if you can speak on that any? I don't know exactly. How did you play into this, and how did the community development block grant become a viable solution to their problems? Because
it is different. It is a little bit out of the ordinary, but a lot of times they've had money that's been, and I can't speak for DHCD, but and how they're doing their grant program. But a lot of times we're seeing a lot of these programs that have money allotted to them for that fiscal year, but everything is at a strange kind of standstill. So now they've got this funding. They realize the entire environment has changed. So all these great projects that are now just out there hanging in space, like so many of our lives and the projects that we've been working on, and they'd said, okay, we need to pivot and address the need that's right here. And everybody knows personal protective equipment, ventilators are things that are greatly in need. And so they said, for these companies that are having to adjust their manufacturing, this is one area in which they can help push forward the need for the ventilator parts quickly. And so it is a little bit different for them too. And they're trying to change and move more quickly through this whole process, procurement and a lot of the rest of it. We hope to have an answer fairly quickly.
So, Madam Chair, if I may, I think the answer to the question is Ms. Joanne Pierman, who helps us, who's the DCHD representative that helps us with our CD Community Development Block Grant, Old Town Madison Heights, mentioned that this would be available. And so Victoria jumped right on it to pursue it.
Okay,
but that's where it came from.
So there was an email that came in, and it said, here's a new announcement of how you can use CDBG dollars. And I will say that for a lot of everybody, there's so much information flow coming in. And when this came in and I saw that this category, and that's where having a good relationship and conversation with our local businesses to know what it is that they're doing and how this funding may fit a need that they have. If you don't have that communication flow, you don't know what's going on. And they were very reactive. I immediately called Swiss Summation, and they were like, we will get you that letter right away. We will get you the quotes right away on everything. And so we were able to move quickly through this.
And who, where does the money come from for the block grants? Is that state or is that federal money?
It's federal money, HUD money that
HUD
is
money, okay, so
distributed.
you already said HUD money.
It is HUD money,
Because
yeah.
for some reason I keep thinking about VDOT. VDOT was involved in the train station. There was some type of block for that.
And we're a non-entitlement community, and so we fit into this category. So, you know, it just seemed to be a win-win-win situation for everybody. And DHCD has been very responsive, trying to work with us every step of the way on a new program. And again, I'm also very proud that we have a company that's doing this and that we were able to, frankly, be the first ones through the door on this funding. So it's exciting.
That is great.
Any further discussion? Again, I will echo what Mr. Pugh said. Thank you so much, Ms. Hanson, for being so proactive here. And thank you for having your business here in Amherst County. And I can tell you one thing, this board will do everything we possibly can to make this work for you. So thanks again.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, if I may obtain one more bit of clarification. Victoria, would you explain why it is that we're holding a public hearing? What it is we need to achieve through the public hearing?
So essentially, because of the community development block grant requirements, they require that you have 2 public hearings. The first one is to announce all the new funding that's available. So if we're looking at one category of the new funding or the way that the program has been reoriented, but it's important that the community, especially since most, as Mr. Pugh had said, most of the CDBG dollars are towards low and middle income. This is a little bit different. So it's important that the entire community knows about the funding and hears about it. And if they have any comments on past spending of CDBG dollars, then they have the opportunity to let you all know their thoughts and about how potential funding and then also past funding has been spent and where the needs might be. So first one was in general about the CDBG grant offerings. And then the second one is about this specific application that Amherst County is making for CDBG dollars under this urgent 19 need and on behalf of Swiss Nation.
Thank you, Ms. Hanson. Stand by. Is there anyone else here in the audience who would like to speak for this project? Do we have anyone on the phone who would like to speak for this project?
We have no one that is contacted for public
Is there
comment.
anyone here in the audience who would like to speak opposed to this project? Do we have anyone on the phone wishing to speak opposed?
No, ma'am.
All right, hearing all that, we will now close the public hearing section of this and turn to the board. Board members, any further discussion?
I think this is one of the best things I've heard today, and Madam Chair, I move that the board adopt the attached resolutions requested by DHCD and authorize the county administrator to execute any other documents needed to finalize the grant application for Swiss Nation.
Motion on the floor by Mr. Martin. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Martin. Thank both of you. We appreciate it and wish you all the success.
Good luck.
We will now close the public hearing section of the meeting and move on to the consent agenda. Board members, any questions? Is there a motion to accept the consent agenda?
So moved, Madam Chair.
Motion on the floor by Mr. Ayers. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The consent agenda is now passed. Move on to old business. Brian, there you are. Let's talk tires.
Let's talk tires. Greetings again. 2 weeks ago, we spoke about the tire policy at the landfill being a bit antiquated.
Turn the microphone on.
Being a bit antiquated, and we agreed that there's some questions that need to be answered. So I'm back with the answers. They are in your packages. First, how many tires are being delivered by businesses or individuals? For the last 12 months, we've had approximately 50 tons of tires. 27 tons were delivered by residents and 23 by businesses. How many businesses bring tires to the landfill? I thought we tracked it by the individual business, but we don't because of cash accounts. But we had approximately 200 transactions last year for commercial businesses bringing tires. The grand question is how much do we charge to cover our costs? I think $275 a ton. Right now we charge $90. If we take it to a manual tire, it's approximately $200 a ton plus our expense of taking it there. So driver makes what he makes per hour. Every mile that truck is on the road, there's fixed costs for insurance and maintenance and fuel and whatnot. At about $275 a ton, that covers the expense. And how far away is the tire recycling facility? Where is it located? It's in Appomattox County on Recycle Drive, which is approximately 34 miles or 40 minutes from the landfill.
Mr. Stack, I think that you've answered everything that we tasked you with. Did you have anything else before you go up to the board members?
No, ma'am, just some clarity going forward on how we approach the recycling of tires from this point forward.
Board members, any further questions?
I don't have any questions. I've got some things I would like to say as I recently visited the landfill and took some tires there. I talked to Mr. Rogers as well. I went there on a Saturday and I had eight tires on my truck, and the attendant wouldn't let me go through. She said, "You have too many tires. You're only allowed 4 at a time." Well, after talking to her a few minutes, and I just seen you the other week, I said, "Well, I heard you can have 8 a week." And so anyway, she let me through and let me through with the tires, and that was good. And the information you provided speaks for itself. But there's some other issues that we need to deal with at the landfill. On Saturday, the traffic is getting backed up way too long. I went there and dumped my tires, and I waited 15 or 20 minutes to go and wait, to go across the scales again to weigh. And about that time, I had become kind of irritated because everyone was pulling in onto the scales before I could pull in. They're cutting me off. So it just took too long. That's unacceptable in my opinion. We need to come up with a better solution with that because residents don't need to be waiting that long to dump their trash off. Somehow we need to be able to circumvent that and come up with a new route for people that are bringing household trash. I spoke with Mr. Rogers about that. He said, "Y'all are going to come up with a solution," but it's unacceptable when that many people are coming in and out and you can't get in, and it takes 20, 30 minutes to get in and out of there. So I hope you all come up with a solution on that.
Mr. Pugh, I think that you may have misspoke. You said 8 tires a week.
No, not a week, 8 tires a year.
Okay.
I may have
Because we're
misspoken.
being recorded, I'll make sure. that-
Yeah, 8 tires a year. And,
You know, our tires coming.
yeah, 8 tires, but they were trying to follow your procedure, so that's good to know that the person working there was following the procedures that she had heard from you, so that was one good aspect.
Well, I appreciate that. To be clear, they're not my procedures. It's what the board has set years ago, a maximum of
Yes.
4 tires.
Well, it's the
All 8 tires, which
landfill's
is why we're here
procedures.
tonight.
It's the landfill's
Yes, sir.
procedures.
All right, so we've got a couple of options, board members. What's your pleasure?
I have another question. We are changing it from 8 to 12.
Correct. So 2 parts of this proposal, we're going from 4 tires at once, 8 per year, to 8 tires at once, 12 per year. And the option of charging either 0, meaning collecting no commercial tires, or charging $275 per ton.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
So you didn't have to pay to take those tires, did you?
No, I did not have to pay, but she was a stickler on how many I could take at one time.
Excellent. Not against you, but
That's
she's
probably back the line.
Oh, no, nobody was there when I came in.
All right, so I think we've got 2 things in front of us, Madam Chair. One is, the way I see it, right now, the county's losing money. All right, and I think Supervisor Moore last time had a concern about the convenience of our commercial tires being able to bring them to the landfill. And I certainly understand that, but I don't think we should be doing it to the detriment of having to pay this additional cost for us to dispose of them. So if we want to keep providing that convenience, I think we need to provide our cost, and I would support an increase in the fee.
Well, I'm in agreement with that, to stay business friendly, but I don't want us to lose money either. So at this point, or if this motion passes, the businesses have 2 options. They can pay extra, bring them to us, or they can take them to main tire themselves.
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
Well, with that being said, I move that the board limit the number of tires delivered to the landfill to 8 tires at one time and 12 for the calendar year per household, with exceptions being made in writing by Public Works as needed. And Public Works shall charge a fee to accept commercial loads of tires, meaning any load above 8 tires at one time that pays for proper disposal at no cost to the county.
Can I have a clarification?
Wait a minute. Go ahead, Dave.
The motion's on the table, but just to make sure, last time we were here, you said there were circumstances that would allow you to have more than 12 per year, particularly if someone was cleaning up a property that had a lot of tires and so forth, specifically residents. Is that still, how's that gonna be worked out?
Well, for instance, an email came in this morning from all the rain. Property owner had found 15 to 20 tires buried in the woods that had washed up. And he asked to be able to deliver those to the landfill at no charge under the community enhancement subcategory. And he has been a frequent visitor to the landfill and had authorization prior. That would be an instance where we certainly grant him not having to pay $275 a ton to dispose of tires.
As long as the attendants know that that is policy, I'm completely fine with that.
How many tires is that?
It depends. So if you throw them in a can, a 30-yard can is about 200. If you stack them nicely, it's about 300. But if you have commercial tires, then you can stack less because they're larger. So
Quite a few tires.
quite a few, let's say 200 for argument's sake.
And if the tires are dirty,
If the tires are dirty, then there's an extra fee. If the tires are clean, it's less, but you have to assume they're dirty.
So the part where it says shall charge a fee, is that, you're still working on that? What does that mean?
The fee would be $275 per ton. We currently charge 90.
Are we leaving that motion not as defined in case the manual tire goes up in cost?
What we'd like to do is instead of coming to the board every time a manual tire has a price increase, that Public Works can incrementally bump that up to cover the costs.
Okay, so you purposely kept the number out there?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
But our understanding is it's just to cover our costs.
Yes, sir.
We're not looking to make money off.
No, sir.
Any further discussion? There is a motion on the floor by Ms. Moore. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. Thank you, Ms. Moore. Thank you, Mr. Thacker. Moving on to new business, HR. Could you come up and speak to us, please?
County staff is having to respond rapidly to the legislation that's coming down from the federal government. And one of those pieces of legislation is the Families First Coronavirus Response Act. Because we got the Department of Labor regulations on March 25th and the provisions of the act became effective April 1, we needed to make changes to some of our benefits contracts so that our employees would have the ability to take advantage of the legislation that came down from the federal government. So the county administrator signed these changes because there was not time to bring it before you, and we're asking you to ratify the changes that the county administrator approved.
This is pretty technical in nature. Board members, do y'all have any questions about what was done here? Involving insurance?
So essentially it was so that they could keep their insurance for a period of time.
Yes, if, with the Piedmont changes, if we furlough employees, and when you furlough employees, those are employees that you intend to hire back. You're just essentially laying them off, but it's for usually a specified period of time. And they're employees that you want to get back versus a overall layoff when you don't intend to necessarily hire those employees back. And this would allow them to maintain their insurance at the current cost they're paying as employees. So we would still keep the employer expense of that, but they would not have to go on COBRA at their full expense during that interim period before we called them back to work. And it was one of the provisions of the legislation.
Other questions?
But we haven't furloughed anyone.
We have not furloughed anybody, and we have no plans to furlough people at this time.
Any further questions?
Ma'am.
Is there a motion?
Madam Chair, I move that the board ratify the COVID-19 related contract revisions and policy changes made by the county administrator as reported at this meeting.
Motion on the floor by Mr. Ayers. All in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. Thank you.
Can I just say, to my knowledge, and you correct me if I'm wrong, just for our employees out there, there's been no intent or talk about furloughing any of our employees, right?
No, sir, we've done everything we can to keep things as normal as possible.
Just want to make sure they understand. Okay.
Good point. We got emergency action ratification. Mr. Rogers.
Yes, ma'am. This is an item that we actually had planned to spend the money in the next fiscal year, but because of C-19, we needed to make sure that the masks that our first responders were using were fit properly. And to do that, they have to be tested properly. And we did not have all the test equipment that we needed. So I authorized the expenditure of $886.08. And that money came from the Emergency Services Council's capital fund. Now, the ESC clerk, Director of Public Safety, Sam Bryant, had already broached this subject with the Emergency Services Council, not specifically, but in advance. If funding was needed to deal with COVID-19, that it would be, they would consider it appropriate to draw from that fund. So they had that discussion. Before bringing this request to me, he approached the chair of the ESC and got the chair's approval to make this drawdown of their capital funds. And so I did, so that we could get those, the testing equipment that would fit the various mask sizes that we use. There's still $117,800 and change in the Emergency Services Council fund. And that normally, if that were left over at the end of the year and not spent, would roll into their committed fund and continue to build their capital fund. So it was a drawdown of over $800 from the capital fund. I did that. Normally, that would require your approval. And I did not wait for that. I wanted to order that equipment and get it here right away. So I approved that in anticipation of your ratification.
Brian, did you have anything else you wanted to add?
Thank you.
Board members, any questions? Need a motion?
Madam Chair, I move that the board ratify the emergency action decision of the county administrator as presented.
Motion on the floor by Mr. Ayers. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Mr. Martin, did you have a question?
I was just going to ask Mr. Lockaby if I should declare a conflict of interest, which I don't think I have. I have been fitted for, and I asked.
I think that you're certainly a member of a large group of people, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay.
I don't think it's an issue.
Ms. Wilkes will now come before us and talk about the audit and cost allocation.
Yes, ma'am. We recently RFP'd for audit services. We have to do that every 5 years. And our cost allocation plan. We had an evaluation committee of myself, Mr. Hopkins, Ms. Carden, and Ms. Crouch. And we're asking you all to allow us to negotiate. We have chosen Brown, Edwards and Company again, and Maximus for the cost allocation plan. So there's no change in who we've been using. It's just we have to do the contract every 5 years. We did interview 2 others, but these were the ones that were chosen by the group.
Any questions, board members? Is there a motion?
I move that the board direct staff to negotiate a contract with Brown, Edwards and Company for audit services and with Maximus for the cost allocation plan preparation and return to the board for approval of the contracts.
Motion on the floor by Mr. Pugh. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. Thank you. Moving on to the county administrator's report. We've got interest in the building appeals board, Mr. Rogers.
Yes, ma'am. I have several and then a few smaller items along with that. There are 3 members of the Building Appeals Board whose terms expire at the end of this month. Norman Hanson, District 2, Kevin Peterson, District 3, and Rusty Nichols, District 4. We advertised the availability of those seats and received no expressions of interest except from those 3 members who would like to be reappointed. So the question before the board is whether you would like to reappoint those 3, direct staff to schedule interviews with them so you can speak with them first, or direct us to continue advertising and find more persons that might be interested.
Board members, these 3 folks have been doing this. I think all of us know these 3 people. I'm okay with reappointing them and not having any interviews. What do y'all think?
I'm fine with that, Madam Chair.
Everybody good? All right, need a motion.
Move that the board reappoint Mr. Norman Hanson, District 2, Mr. Kevin Peterson, District 3, and Mr. George Rusty Nichols, District 4.
Motion on the floor by Mr. Ayers. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. Thank them for their service. We certainly appreciate them.
Thank you, ma'am. We will do that. The next time I'd like to bring to your attention is at the last meeting, you directed me to obtain a fire safe box in which to store personnel records of the county administrators. I have done that. That box will fit within our current lockbox. And so once you obtain those records from the BB&T safety deposit box and bring them, I can deliver you 2 sets of keys, one for the fireproof box and then another one for the box in which that sits. And you all can, those records will then be secure and we can stop paying BB&T to rent their safety deposit box. But we're ready to go.
That's great. That's good news.
The other item.
Wait a minute. Board members in the past, we've had given keys to 2 separate board members, and both board members had to be present in order to access these records. Is there any, do y'all want to change any of that? Is that work all right? I mean, it gets a little cumbersome sometimes to get 2 people here at the same time, but.
I don't have a problem with the chair and vice chair getting the key.
Okay. Then we will keep with the same process. Give a key to me and give a key to Ms. Moore.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
The next item is that came up actually this morning. The Coalition for a Cleaner County met this morning, and they are planning on a county cleanup day for this Saturday. They'll ask people to gather at Coolwell Park, and then they'll disperse to 3 locations throughout the county to begin cleaning up. We're in coordination with VDOT. We've obtained vests. We'll have signage. We're seeking gloves and pick-uppers for people that don't want to head over. And there will probably be a rain date established, since at this point it's a bit early, but rain's expected on Saturday. But they're trying hard to move quickly and begin the trash effort. Our public information officer has already established a special Facebook group for the coalition where they will begin advertising and people will be invited to become a part of it. So the coalition is moving.
That's great news. Is that website or whatever it is it up and running already?
It is. So it is a sub-group of the Facebook page of the county.
Okay.
So you can go to the county Facebook page. You'll see it there and ask to join it, and then Joy will let you in. 10 a.m. tomorrow.
I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but this is kind of in the face of what the governor wants us to do. You're gathering people together. Right now, maybe doesn't seem like the best idea.
Well, it is outdoors. We will be able to keep our social distance from each other and give people something to do that's constructive. And I think we can follow the guidelines. Our biggest concern is a gathering more than 10. And if we keep those groups separated and they do disperse to different locations, at this short notice, I think we'll be hard pressed to get more than 30 people.
Well, if you get that many, that would be good.
That would be good, yeah.
Yeah. But, and for the record, I'm for it. I was just saying, make sure everybody
Yes,
follows.
sir. Yes, sir. We're sensitive to that too.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else, Mr. Rogers?
No, ma'am.
Okay, next we've got the addition to our agenda. Ms. Falk is here to talk about the county fair.
Actually, it's me, Mike.
I'm sorry, I was going, what's your buddy?
I'm Jeff Floyd. I'm the chairman for your agricultural committee. First off, I want to thank each member of the board and Mr. Rogers for changing the agenda to have me on this evening. I apologize for coming in so late on the agenda, but we just had a meeting yesterday and we wanted to come and let y'all know what was going on. In the meeting, because of everything that's going on in the community and everything being up in the air with the pandemic, we feel that this may not be the best time to have a county fair this year. And I wanted to let y'all know, so far we have 0 sponsorship for the fair. Nobody, all of our bigger sponsors from previous years, they don't know what the future's holding for any of us. So they're holding out. So it's our recommendation as a committee that we go ahead and let people know that we will not have a 2020 Amherst County Fair unless things dramatically change in the next couple of months in a big turnaround. If it does, we may look at having something smaller for the community, but something enjoyable. But I think that the members, our big thing is, if we can't have it this year because of everything that's going on, we'll look forward to next year and we'll start now pre-planning everything and we'll be that much ahead for next year. We just feel like that if we sign a bunch of contracts, people will want to be paid, which rightly so. And right now, we don't even know if we could be allowed to have a fair, much less putting people in danger if they do have a round 2 of this come this fall. We usually bus people in and the buses are pretty crowded and we're just trying to look out for everybody's interest.
Thank you, Mr. Floyd. Board members, questions?
So, Madam Chair and Mr. Rogers, you might be able to help me with this. So, I think the previous board approved, was it like $60,000 for the fair? And part of that money was to hire a fair manager or someone. So what is that person doing now if we're not going to have the fair?
Honestly, I spoke with Ed Sale. He is the chairman of the fair committee. And last speak with him, I have not spoke with him since this morning. He was supposed to contact David today and see exactly what we needed to do because that is a contractual position and how to go from here with the contract. So at this point, I don't have any information for you, but I can definitely find out and let everyone know.
I don't think we need to know that yet.
I mean, it's sad news. I know everybody was really excited about the fair, but it is absolutely understandable. I mean, these are circumstances beyond any of our control. And I appreciate, and I know firsthand all the work that you all have put into this so far. But, come this fall, you'll be gearing up again for 2021. It's our hope. Thank you. We don't need to take any action on that, do we, Mr. Rogers?
If you want to direct some action of any kind, I don't have a proposal for you.
Madam Chair, my only concern is I believe, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it was upwards of $25,000, right, that we were paying this person to put the fair together. We're not having a fair.
Yeah, and that's what they've got to get with Mr. Profit, because I don't know what the contract looks like. So I think that Mr. Profit and Mr. Lockaby will have to look at the contract and give us guidance there. But I mean, I hear what you're saying. If we're not having a fair, there's nothing that needs to be done. So the question is, how do we unwind that?
And that'll be driven by the termination provisions. that are in there. And it was for $22,500 plus 10% of the sponsorships, and of course, sponsorships have dried up. We can't do fair
It's a
without
sad
those.
situation.
Yeah.
We have to look out for the county's interest also.
Otherwise, the money can be carried over. It's not been spent and carried over the next year. And we'll just determine how much has to be paid under the contract and how much can be withheld and applied toward the next year. But we'll bring that to you as a report once we have that sorted out.
Mr. Lockerbie? Do you have anything for us?
No, ma'am, I have nothing to add, but thank you.
All right. Liaison committee reports that are there for your review. Departmental reports also there. Any questions about either of those? If not, we will move on to citizen comment. Is there anyone here wishing to speak? Seeing and hearing none, is there anyone on the phone who wishes to speak?
No, ma'am.
Seeing and hearing none, we will now close citizen comment and move on to matters for members of the board. Mr. Ayers.
Yes, Madam Chair. Mr. Rogers, is there an update on the Burley Hollow dumpster site as far as what the status of that is as far as cleanup?
I did not prepare that for tonight. Can I put
The, on the spot, David, the status, I need you to come up here and speak into the mic so the people on YouTube can hear.
Okay, yeah, the status is, it's being advertised for bids. The bids are due May 10th for remediation of all three of the sites that have been closed. So we're waiting to get the bids.
Okay, thank you, sir. Nothing further this time.
Mr. Martin.
Yes, Madam Chair, I would like for the board to at least reconsider starting our budget deliberations again. It's been several weeks, if not at least a month, since we've had any conversation about it. And I think we're in a different time right now, and I think we need to revisit what we've discussed. Some of our thoughts may have changed, maybe not, but I think we should keep speaking to each other about it rather than waiting. So.
I support that. Board members, when was our next regularly scheduled meeting, Mr. Rogers? I can't.
The 5th of May, Tuesday, the 5th of May. It's a 3 p.m. meeting. Normally when we do budget workshops on the same day as a meeting, that would be a 5 p.m. budget workshop if you wanted to help hold it then, unless you want to do it sooner, but 5 May, 5 p.m. That is the first Tuesday in May.
So 2 weeks?
Yes, sir. We can do it sooner if you'd like. I mean, you have the latest information.
If I may, I would be fine with May 5th. The more data we can collect on the information that we're seeing, the better we're going to be able to make an educated decision. And that will give us a little bit more time to look at some of the things. The unemployment numbers, for instance, I think we've got about 3 weeks of that, and we've seen where it spiked to 300, and there was another 390. We've got 800 people that are unemployed. The more information we can get like that, and some of the revenue projections, it might help Stacy. So I would be fine, but the longer we can throw this out, the better we'll be as far as predicting what we're going to see. At least that's my opinion. Stacy, I don't know if you have a different opinion.
What I sent you. What I provided last week has my revenue projections based on my discussions with those finance directors across the state and with state people, economic people. I'll have another meeting tomorrow morning with them, but I feel like my numbers are super conservative compared to what most of them are doing. So what you've got is probably my best estimate right now. But I understand what you're saying. We need to, and I'm going to keep working those as more information comes in. I just, I have nothing for our meals tax and lodging, so that's a stab in the dark right now. But I think the unemployment, I do have a contact at the VEC now, so I'm trying to get that number every week. It has not come down to him yet for last week, so I'll check again with him tomorrow.
Refresh our memory again on what our timeline is now with these changes, as far as doing meeting certain deadlines that we have to meet?
Well, we would normally, the way we've got it set now, we would have the public hearing the first week of the first meeting in June. And we would have you adopt in the second meeting in June.
You had previously we had previously scheduled you for your next workshop to be the 11th of May.
Right.
So all you're really doing is you're moving that meeting up by 6 days. So we're going to start meeting 1 week before we would have started meeting anyway.
That's fine, I'd rather do it sooner than later.
I agree with you. I was still thinking it was May 11th, and I don't want to wait that long, but May 5th, I mean,
That's fine.
okay.
Can I ask a question? Is there anything else you all would want different than what I've been giving you?
No, I think, at least for me, Madam Chair, is I'd like to see your revised projections to the best of your ability. And I would like for us just to have a broad overview of kind of what we've gone through, kind of where we are in the process. This is what we've agreed to fund and have it funded, and just go from there.
I can do that.
Madam Chair, if I may, just 1 second. I think last Friday we had a virtual emergency meeting, and there's some department staff on there. Do all of our people have webcams for that technology?
No, not all of them.
Couldn't we afford to get a $30 webcam for our?
Well, one would think, but the market for webcams is really tight right now. It's hard to find them, and IT's been struggling to find webcams for us. But people, if they have them on their laptop or already at their home computer, then they do have them. But it's always possible to call in by phone in all of these meetings. So no one gets left out.
Thank you.
Mr. Pugh?
Yeah, well, you know, when you opened the meeting today and you gave your prayer, and when you were talking about all the parents at home with their children and sitting at the table after a long days of work, I know exactly what you're talking about because I'm doing it. And it is hard. I mean, a lot of people are putting a lot of time in trying to make sure their children are learning what they're supposed to learn. And, you know, I'm included. We work full-time jobs and we come home and sit at the table for 2 hours a night trying to do the homework. So I feel for all the students, all the parents, and all the teachers. And I hope before too long this will be over. But it definitely has created, you know, a lot more family time. That's for sure. Whether that's good or bad, of course it's good. But you know, it's definitely stressful. And I'm glad that I'm not a teacher.
But you are. You
Oh,
are.
I am, but yeah. You know, I need to practice a little more patience.
I'm shocked. Ms. Moore?
I'm sorry, I'm going back up to the county fair. We had designated money not only for a director, but also funds to go to the fair.
Right.
Are we saying we're going to halt on spending any more dollars and roll that over?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, just want to make sure. And then I had sent an email to Mr. Rogers, and Mr. Thacker got involved, and Sarah Lou about Rivers Edge Park. There is a temporary fencing up, and people are going over that fence, climbing on rocks where they shouldn't be. So I had a concerned citizen, reached out to them. They're going to fix the fencing and put a couple more signs up to say, stay off the rocks, no climbing, etc. So thank you for your work on that.
What are we not climbing on?
The sandstone cliffs right there next to the parking lot are very unstable.
Not the ones where we
No,
watched
down
them.
about 200 yards, there's the bluestone rocks that are very stable and where climbing's allowed there.
Right, okay.
They're very, people who climb understand the difference, but people who don't probably don't understand the difference and don't understand how dangerous it is. But we're repairing the fence, we're replacing the signs.
Okay. Anything else? That's it. All right, I don't have anything, so we will now move on to closed session. We've got 2 of them.
Madam Chair, I move that the Amherst County Board of Supervisors convene in closed session. A closed session pursuant to section 2.2-3711A7 of the Code of Virginia 1950 as amended for the purpose of consultation with legal counsel and briefings by staff members or consultants pertaining to actual or probable litigation where such consultation or briefing in open meeting would adversely affect the negotiating or litigating posture of the public body, specifically relating to ongoing opioid litigation and tax case brought by T-Mobile Northeast LLC. And B, a closed session pursuant to section 2.2, 3711A8 of the Code of Virginia 1950 as amended for the purpose of consultation with legal counsel employed or retained by a public body regarding specific legal matters requiring the provision of legal advice by such counsel relating to a personnel contract.
Motion on the floor by Mr. Ayers. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. We will now go into closed session. please.
Yes, ma'am. I move that the Amherst County Board of Supervisors come out of closed session.
Motion on the floor, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes.
Move that the Amherst County Board of Supervisors certify by a recorded vote that to the best of each member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from the open meeting requirements of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act and identified in the motion authorizing the closed session were heard, discussed, or considered in the closed session.
We now have a roll call vote for the record. Mr. Ayers.
Aye.
Mr. Martin.
Aye.
Mr. Pugh.
Aye.
Ms. Moore. Aye. Ms. Tucker. Aye. All right. Is there anything? Mr. Lockley.
Yes, ma'am. I was going to request that the board will please authorize Mr. Rogers and myself and our outside litigation team to put in a claim in the Johnson & Johnson litigation going on in the opioid multi-district litigation in Ohio.
All right, I will put that in the form of a motion. Mr. Lockby's words there. Motion is on the floor by Ms. Tucker. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Mr. Lockby, Mr. Rogers, move forward, please.
Thank you, ma'am.
All right, any other discussion? Is there a motion to adjourn? So moved. Motion on the floor by Ms. Moore. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Meeting's adjourned. Thank you.